in honour and consideration of our distinguished guest this evening, we would like to get cracking as soon as possible. So, without further ado, if I could ask Mrs. Natalia to come forward and to start the welcome address, please.
Thank you very much, Simon. Your Excellency, Minister of Maritime Affairs and Insular Policy, Mr. Yannis Plakiotakis. Your Excellency, the British Ambassador to Greece, Mr. Matthew Lodge. Your Excellency, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Europe, Mr. Leo Doherty. Dear President of the ICS, Mr. Kevin Shakesheaf, dear ICS members and students, distinguished guests, good evening. I am delighted to welcome you all to our 17th ICS Annual Forum. We are honored by your presence here tonight, and I would also like to welcome our virtual audience, those who are participating through our live streaming channel. This year's topic is Moving Forward with the World in Turmoil, and aims to highlight the complexity of trade within the economy. While moving into a more uncertain future, shipping remains the backbone of international trade. However, there are a lot of challenges in the short and the long run. For instance, inflation, climate change, and geopolitical developments. Greek shipping professionals have consistently adapted to these changing conditions. They always prove that resilience and evolution are vital elements of the character of the Greek shipping industry. This is not only a result of knowledge and experience, but also of the continuous support of the companies to advance the skills of their human resources for the good of the industry. Since its foundation, ICS has been committed to deliver high-quality professional education and to cultivate professional and ethical skills that are highly prized in the shipping industry. Apart from the above, we pay special attention in reinforcing the professional identity of our students and helping them integrate into the international shipping community with the highest level of readiness. The syllabus of the ICS Professional Maritime Qualification and our in-class learning methods focus on practical knowledge and real-life business decision-making. Throughout all these years, we have trained more than 10,000 shipping professionals and have built a network of practitioners who respect and follow the Institute's ethics and values. Our students have repeatedly been among the highest performers. Today, as in every year, we are honoring our prize winners who have excelled at the ICS examinations at a worldwide level. Of course, the backbone of this education is provided by our lecturers. All of them are working professionals who give time from their busy schedules to share their knowledge and expertise to our students. Finally, I would like once again to express my gratitude to the chairman of ICS, Mr. Nicholas Chavliris, for his valuable input all these years. I would like to ask the chairman to come and address the forum. Thank you very much.
Dear ICS members, dear students, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 17th Annual Forum of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Greek branch. It is my great pleasure and honor to see you all here this evening and to welcome those who were unable to attend but are now connected via live streaming. As a leading educational institution providing the shipping industry with highly qualified professionals for more than 110 years, the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers is committed to systematically developing skills and embedding competencies within disciplines. This in turn enhances our graduates' preparedness going forward towards the opportunities and challenges ahead. A review of the landscape is required to determine what factors are causing or contributing to the current and envisaged turmoil, and what that turmoil actually consists of. Turmoil is defined as a state or condition of extreme confusion, agitation, and commotion. I have identified 35 to 40 factors which influence turmoil conditions in the world today. I do not propose taking up valuable time by mentioning them one by one right now. Also, I do not want to preempt what will be said this evening by members of the panel. Suffice to say, they are far-reaching, ranging from financial and climatical factors to hostilities and geopolitical tensions. The list in bullet point form is not exhaustive and is not necessarily in order of importance. Anyone interested to receive my paper from the ICS can do so by requesting same from their office. It is my submission that the analysis would not be complete without mentioning other important factors, which, although familiar to all, are invariably overlooked, namely, the rapid increase in world population, now standing at 8 billion and heading for 10 billion. The failings of all forms of government, i.e. communism, capitalism, and liberal democracy. The widening gap between the very rich and the very poor, which is creating appalling inequality. The inhumanity, the indifference to the suffering of less fortunate people, which will eventually explode. The disregard for the irreversible damage being done to our home, planet Earth, by our greed for more materialistic short-term gains. The only animal or being that ravages and destroys its own habitat is man, the human race. Last but not least, the dangers inherent in technological advances, for example, artificial intelligence. The ramifications are profound. Although all this sounds pessimistic, we must not overlook the resilience and adaptability of shipping to survive crises and historically emerge stronger. Change and innovation are bred in times of conflict and distress. Today's panelists are distinguished industry leaders who honor us by participating this evening and debating important issues emanating from our theme, moving forward with the world in turmoil. Once again, this event, carefully organized by Natalia Marioli-Komninou and her capable team, offers an excellent opportunity for brainstorming. I welcome you all and thank you cordially for contributing to this forum. Thank you, Mr. Leonidas Dimitriadis Evgenidis and the personnel of the Evgenidis Foundation for your hospitality. Thank you all, both here and online, for your attendance today and for your continuing support. Special thanks to all our sponsors, whose contribution has been vital to the organization and success of the event. I sincerely hope that you enjoy today's presentations and discussions and invite you to join in. Every opinion counts. It is my privilege to invite His Excellency, Minister of Maritime Affairs and Insular Policy, Mr. Yannis Plakiotakis, to the podium. Thank you for your attention.
Good evening, dear Ambassador, dear Undersecretary, dear President of ICS, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, dear members of ICS. Let me first of all thank the organizers for their kind invitation, and especially the chairman of ICS branch of Greece, Mr. Tsavliris, for his kind invitation. And it is an incredible honor for me to address the annual forum of the Hellenic branch of the Institute of the Chartered Shipbrokers, in which the most serious issue of global shipping will be discussed, which is none other than how we move forward in a world in a turmoil. Ladies and gentlemen, the recent years of the pandemic have shown us very clearly how sensitive and also how important transport sector is for ensuring resilient supply chains, as well as creating reliable and robust mechanisms to keep vessels running smoothly and safely around the world. The most recent crisis of Ukraine revealed even further the importance of shipping, in particular to sustain energy and food security worldwide, especially the most vulnerable parts of our world. This is important to understand how shipping needs the public recognition it fairly deserves. The importance of maritime transport is made absolutely clear if one considers that almost 90% of the global merchandise trade is transported by sea. Shipping has been always part of the solution and not of the problem, and this applies with respect to a number of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, including decarbonization, fighting poverty through security of supply, and quality employment. With respect to decarbonization, which is relevant for all human activities on planet Earth, shipping not excluded, I would like first of all to underline that we need regulation that will promote the energy transition in an enabling and inclusive manner without jeopardizing the predominance of the European Union shipping and the resilience of our economies, particularly the growth prospects and well-being of more vulnerable citizens like the islanders and the less wealthy. Policymakers need to trigger the initiative of a paradigm shift by establishing proactively and, when needed, retroactively the conditions for a flourishing industry. It is well known that one of the biggest challenges for shipping will be to secure worldwide availability of safe, alternative, and zero carbon fuels and the related infrastructure, and this should happen as soon as possible. Now, this is far from being a reality, so research, development, and deployment of alternative fuels will need to intensify. However, since shipping is a hard-to-abate sector and each subsector, such as bulk shipping, liners, short sea passengers, and coastal shipping, has its own particularities and prerequisites, if you prefer, we should begin with a basic principle, that of technological neutrality. In this respect, and in cooperation with the maritime community, we are exploring the best possible ways for the most radical transformation ever happened in shipping for a century, the gradual transition to a non-fossil fuel-based shipping and economy in general. Ladies and gentlemen, shipping, as any other economic activity, is affected by new challenges, priorities, developments, technological, political, economical, and others. I feel like saying that adaptability to new circumstances has always been the core element for success in this. Cyclical business, just remember the introduction of double hulls, the successive sulfur limits, the volatility of oil prices, the pandemic, and many others. Adaptability, sustainability, and reliability will definitely be key in the future. It is on those elements that the industry will need to rely upon. But if you made the same question 20 or 30 years ago, you would still take the same answer about the components for success. In that sense, the paradigm shift mostly refers to decarbonization these days, what some people call the fourth industrial revolution that lies ahead. But this business has always been working in challenging circumstances, in rough seas, in wars, within technological breakthroughs and political instability. The difference has always been made by those operators that invested in quality and reliability. And in the audience, I've seen many Greek dominant players that has managed to turn and to transform challenges to opportunity, and not least, of course, through new investments. These people were able to stay in business for decades and inject their visions to the new generation of Greek shipping entrepreneurs. When it comes to our role as policymakers, I believe it is very important to increase the public's awareness of the important role of the shipping industry and, of course, the seafarers for our society as a whole. As a first step, we need to inform our society that shipping is a significant contributor to the national economies and to the global efforts for the protection of the environment and the promotion of sustainable development. Improving the public perception of shipping will also assist to attract qualified and competent new people and persuade our youth that the sea offers an ocean of opportunities for a well-paid and a socially rewarding career. The International Chamber of Shipping estimates that there will be a shortage of more than 90,000 qualified officers by 2026. So what we actually are moving in Greece these days is that we are ready to launch an outline law in order to upgrade our maritime education system. This is, I've seen Mr. Dimitriadis. We are very closely cooperating with the foundation in order to put forward a new law on our maritime education system, which, to my point of view, is the biggest challenge that global shipping will face in the future. In that sense, the role of policymakers to an internal and continuous paradigm shift is nothing more than creating those enabling circumstances for shipping to adapt to new challenges, whatever the nature is, so as to serve our economies and societies in a similar enabling manner. By merely increasing compliance costs, you may end up with economic disruptions and inflationary pressures that we already see, which will hit the most vulnerable. Even if investments in new ships are there, and it is the case that by 2030, a notable number of ships will be running with biofuels, ammonia, methanol, or otherwise, they will need to find alternative fuels, enabling them to comply with the new regulations all around the world. Therefore, at this stage, we need to make this happen by putting in place a shipping energy hubs concept. In times of disruption, like those we felt and still feel those days, and prevent irrational strategic thinking, the paradigm shift comes more urgently and sometimes as a matter of necessity. In such case, decision makers at international and national level need to shield shipping from external shocks so that the inevitable behavioral changes come as smoothly as possible. With these few thoughts, I would like to thank once again the organizers for their kind invitation to address the challenges that global shipping will face. I wish, of course, every success, and I'm sure that the results will provide useful insights for our common maritime future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Minister Plakiotakis, thank you very much for your presence here tonight and for your valuable input. At this point, I would like to especially thank and welcome the distinguished members of our panel, Mrs. Kouvadeli, Mr. Hadjioannou, Mr. Martinos, Mr. Prokopiou, Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Chironi. Thank you very much for your participation. Our panel moderator, Simon Ward, Director at Ursa Sea Brokers, Fellow of the Institute, Lecturer at the Greek branch, a great colleague, a good friend, and a true motivator for all of us involved in shipping. Thanks a lot, Simon. And once again, thank you all for being here tonight. I hope you will enjoy the conference.
Record this, I'm blushing. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Minister. Undersecretary, please note how the Greeks get involved in shipping. Okay, take it back with you. Okay. What a panel! What a panel, eh? Sadly, Alessio couldn't join us due to personal circumstances, but still, we have such a wealth of talent, experience, knowledge, intelligence, opinions, and most importantly, wisdom. My job, as you understand, is not enviable, but I'm sure it will be made much easier as these people have more than enough to say. I like to think of this forum not just for the panelists, but for everyone here, professionals, members, students, guests. So first of all, panelists, as you know, I've given you no questions. This is all blind or deaf, whichever way you want to look at it. On purpose, please interrupt and intercede with any comments or questions that you wish to ask. For everyone else, yes, all you, I encourage you to do the same. I shall be coming amongst you as normal, so just raise your hand or catch my eye at any time, and I will do my best to bring you in. There will not be a question and answer session, so if you have any questions or any points to make, you have to catch us as we go along. I always say that there's no such thing as a stupid question, and this is particularly true in a forum like this. You may never get another opportunity. There are microphones near your seats wherever you are sitting if you wish to intercede. Mr. Chairman, thank you. You listed so many horses of the apocalypse that I thought it was a cavalry, and I thought we were about to be trampled in the stampede. I agree, it sometimes seems that we're about to be trampled underfoot. But let me just pick a few of your themes to brainstorm amongst the panel and the audience, and in discussing them, we may even find some opportunities for change, for business, maybe even for hope. George, I'm going walkabout now. George, I'll start with you if I may. By the way, for all of you that may be a bit shocked, I have asked permission to call people by their first names, okay? So I'm not being particularly irreverent at this case. George, China is so important for shipping and has been over the last 20 years or so. We used to count on China to take what we carry, but now exports are falling, 8.7% November, year on year. Imports declined 10.6% year on year. And this is compared with 0.3 and 0.7% just last month. Can we still count on China to provide the cargoes and the business that we need?
First of all, I want to welcome all excellencies and all distinguished guests, audience that you are here. You are honoring us, and thank you very much. But above all, the students, because this is the present and the future of Greece and Greek shipping, and always will be. I want to, before answering this question, I would like to say that wherever is a will is a way, and everything is made for humans. Superhumans, they do not exist. What you see around is made by people like you, with the two hands and their brain. So you have in front of you all the challenge, but all the possibilities to become great. Here, my friend Thanasis, that he's on my right, he started when he was 17 from his room in Glyfada, managing a ship. So you can do whatever comes to your mind. You have to believe in yourself and do it. In Greece shipping, it will be always. The last 7,000 years was the main occupation. Will be for the next 7,000 years. Don't worry. When you are saying Simon, your question is deceiving. Yes, maybe the numbers are falling, but the ton miles are increasing. What we are interested is about the ton miles, the number of available ships, the new buildings, and of course, the economic activity. But there are some essentials, no matter how the economy goes, that they don't have elasticity. And shipping is exactly for those commodities. So we are not worried that the numbers of exports or imports, the tons, are reducing. We are very much interested to see what the ton miles are doing. And we see now all the wise decisions that we take the oil from west, we are taking it to east, we make it in products, it's coming back to west, and σε δουλειά να βρισκόμαστε, as we say. So, don't worry, they are doing the utmost for good shipping days lying ahead. I'm very optimistic that the market not all will remain good, but will become a wonderful market. The more mistakes they are doing, the better it is for shipping. Thank you.
George, I gather from the more mistakes they are doing, you are referring to perhaps geopolitical actors, or you're referring to some of the geopolitical risks that Mr. Chavliris was mentioning before?
These are intertwined. The geopolitical actions and economical factors are the same page, front and back page, the same leaf. We had the biggest miscalculation of the century, the invasion in Ukraine, thinking that will be a 7 days affair. And then we started taking measures, and we are hurting ourselves more than the enemy. So I don't think that there are people that they have any doubt about this, except from the politicians. The politicians, they think that the desirable is the same with the doable, but the doable is far from the desirable, and this vicious cycle creates the opportunities that you mentioned just now. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Alexandra, wake up. I'm coming to you. There's a traffic jam in the Bosphorus. What's going on?
Well, it's quite a sad situation for tankers, because now it's quite clear that we're talking about the crude oil carriers. Well, in mid-November, the Turkish government decided that they wanted a clear confirmation of cover, P&I cover, of all the ships that they transit Bosporus. And again, now it's clear that we're talking about the crude oil tankers. At that point, we have tried, as in my capacity as Senior Claims Director of the UK Club, but also member of the IG, at the IG Secretariat level, we have tried to persuade and explain to the Turkish government and the Ministry of Transport that they didn't really require an additional letter, because it's very easy, actually, to confirm and check whether a ship has a P&I cover by going into the search tool of the IG side. Unfortunately, they were not that persuaded.
So is this, I can speak more freely now because the politicians are leaving the room.
One was interested.
I think we all can now. Okay. So, without being too controversial, it seems to me as though, from all of this, we have, in terms of the problem that you just raised, is that the oil price cap, has led to a situation where Turkey can manipulate, if you want, the stuff that's going on and play, should we say, Russia, for example, off the rest of the world, which increases ton miles, perhaps.
Well, at the moment, the discussion is at a diplomatic level.
Okay.
Between British ambassador and the US ambassador and the Turkish authorities. But it is a very, very unusual situation where the tanker owners are in at the moment.
Okay, Thanasi, when we spoke, you talked about this very theme, and in particular crude oil going in places that it doesn't normally come from to go to somewhere else. In particular, I think you were talking about VLCCs across the Atlantic. Is this a trend that you see carrying on, and do you think that that the market will continue to take advantage of that? I mean, in terms of the geopolitical side of things.
You know, in spite of forecasts, we have seen that after the European sanctions on Russian crude, surprisingly, the price of crude oil went down quite. It was, I think, something like 6-7%. And the market, freight market is a little, how you say, a little frozen in crudes. The VLCC rates have dropped substantially and they have not found a bottom yet. And it seems that maybe, according to the opinion of market analysts, maybe this is due to the recession in Europe, maybe due to a slowdown in China, which affects the price of oil, which is not cheap, let's face it. Some other people think that maybe it's, but I don't know whether the price of oil can really be manipulated so that the levels reach the European and, you know, the allied cap or the $60 cap on the price that the Russians can trade their oil. But certainly now, if they politically they accept that, I think they can sell their oil and export their oil under the cap. Now, it seems that maybe Russia will restrict their exports or cut production. We have seen that OPEC didn't do that. Why they didn't do that? Because they thought the Russians would do, which would be the same thing. And so it's a bit early to predict how the oil prices will move. First week, I think things will clear perhaps after our holidays. I'm not too optimistic on the crude tankers. I think if with this development, if the price of oil is high and some countries may reduce their import, like China has slowed down considerably even last year. So I'm not sure that the very high rates we have seen for VLCCs will continue. On the other hand, the smaller sizes like product tankers are doing very well because still there is no sanctions from Europe. The sanctions will take place on the 5th of February, and there's an increased movement of products. Europe is trying to take advantage before the sanctions and store as much diesel as possible. We know that diesel is an absolutely necessary commodity for everything, including heating. We expect that freights of product carriers will continue to do well during the year, because if Russian crude goes to India and to China and it's being refined into diesel and products, other products, and is transported back to Europe, you can understand that this will be increased on miles, and that will benefit certainly products of all sizes, especially the LR2.
You see, Thanasis, I'm a ship sale and purchase broker, and I admire both yourself and George. I remember George in 2016, when everybody was crying, if I may quote you, buy anything that floats in the dry, and how prescient that was. Thanasis, you're not as vocal, I think, in these things.
If somebody should buy anything that floats.
No, not at the moment. I'm just, in your reputation as, shall we say, as moving in asset play, or at least in buying, is very well recognised in the market. And indeed, there's many people in this room that would look at a purchase that you had made and say, why is that? What does he know? And perhaps follow it. I think I speak for the market there in that respect. But I also, a little bit more, I understand that you have a very simple way of looking at these things, which is, do I sell or can I make more money by keeping and trading? Is that a fair assumption of how you view selling ships at any time? Is that how you approach it?
You know, shipping is a cyclical industry, and I suppose somebody who makes investment decisions should try and invest when the cycle is low and sell or even hold to maturity, as they say, for bonds when the prices are high. I think prices for tankers are quite high now, and for product carriers as well. Prices for dry bulk ships have substantially corrected, and by the look of it, they may correct by another, they may have. And at that time, it may be a good idea to buy dry bulk ships sometime next year. Containers is a bit of a disaster as well, but I'm not at all an expert on that. You know, it's Greeks. We have 2 or 3 very successful, very big companies, but it's a sector where we are relatively small, and LNGs are for the younger generations because it's a long-term investment, doing very well now. So I'm very pleased for that.
Okay, well, moving on to the younger generation, if I may, Polis. Do you share that the dry market is moving into a moment of opportunity on the purchasing side?
Yes, thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. And dry bulk market right now, we consider making a correction, and I wouldn't say it's disastrous. At the moment, we're above break-even on what we charter, and I think that a lot plays behind it with the story of Chinese opening their country with COVID. If this happens, as there were reports the last few days, that the central government is considering of making, because they see now the rest of the world is open. They see the World Cup, they see this, they see the other. The people there, they don't like being locked up again, and we see relaxation of certain measures. If this happens, I don't think there is a huge room for dry bulk market to drop to the sort of rates we need in order to see prices of ships substantially lower. The 10%, 15% may happen from today's level, but when we see, we're trying to see with the binoculars any modern ship being offered for sale in the market, and we know that if there is one, maybe 5, 6, 7 years old in the market, there are immediately 20 buyers after her. Even without inspecting, they can bid 20 different people. This is a sort of scenario that doesn't push prices down like it happened in 2015, 2016, even 2017. So I expect prices to drop a little more, but I don't expect a disaster, even if it will happen, I think, like what happened with the tanker assets in 2021. There was terrible market in the freight market, terrible freight market, but you saw asset prices holding up. And of course, now they exploded with the tanker rates going sky high. I expect something similar. I expect that dry bulk market may drop to break-even levels or a little bit under break-even levels, but not to disastrous levels, not for too long. And I don't expect prices to drop more than another 5, 10, 15%. And on modern ships, I don't think they will drop at all.
Okay. Thank you. You've made my job a lot easier. Or not. Stephen, let's carry on the geopolitical stuff here. You are head of LNG at Poston Partners, and you're based in Houston. And obviously, when I look at my themes, and I look at geopolitical, and I look at environmental, and I look at commercial and the market, and it's LNG, isn't it? All wrapped into one. First of all, isn't it a good thing at the moment to be in LNG?
Well, I think it's interesting to reflect on that question in the following way, and it was something that came to mind as I was listening to the comments made so far. I'd like to say that well, a normal contract in LNG is 20 years. It's been that way for a long time, and in the U.S. I've seen that the standard marriage is 7 years. So an LNG contract is just like a marriage, only 3 times as long. And that's a problem.
More lucrative, perhaps?
It's a problem because the times seem good now, but there's a real reluctance to make the marriage. And there's this idea that the LNG industry needs to boom, it needs to move forward, it needs to expand. But who's going to step up and make the 20-year commitments? And who's going to take the risk?
So at the moment you have, let's say, Europe has done very well in topping up LNG so far in a way that people were very surprised at. But Europe is not that interested in going into marriage. They just want to flirt a bit. Whereas China, I understand, has just signed a 27-year supply contract with Qatar over a period of time, which is, well, it's eternity almost, isn't it, in that respect?
It is 27 years, but 27 years underestimates it because deliveries aren't going to start immediately. They're going to start a few years down the road. So really, China is looking, I think, 30 years into the future and making commitments of that nature. And that's the way the economics of the industry have worked when we're talking major expansions in capacity. Looking at what's going on now, there's this real sense that LNG is a great business. It's great for people who have supply that they can use to arm the market and take advantage of the short-term prices. But in terms of the underlying health of the industry in the long term, with the time that's required to really accommodate the type of expansion that's needed to deal with the security supply issues that the world is facing, in Europe in particular, then that's a much more dicey proposition right now.
George, if I may come back to you again, because you have 1 or 2 LNG carriers, I understand, in the group. 30. Okay. I didn't want to embarrass him, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it's.
Martiriari.
Can I be indiscreet and ask you whether or not you're entering into long-term contracts or you prefer the spot market? Or is that protected information?
No, there is. I don't have secrets. That's why I live very freely.
Okay.
It is very nice when you don't have secrets. So everything to be above the table, nothing under the table. So a mixture is the best, to have long, medium, and short. But again, now the politicians have gone, again, this is a problem that was caused by the politicians. They were very much against natural gas, and everybody thought that there is a magic solution somewhere in the corner, so they started being afraid to commit for too long, even to invest. All this, what happens now, it is not with pricing, it's not due to the invasion. It is started much before, and it was under the carpet because we had COVID, and the demand for energy has reduced a lot because aeroplanes were not flying, cars were not driven, and so on. But the lack of investment, because the banks were guided not to finance the frackers, not to finance the drillers, not to finance the FPSOs, the FSOs, all these. For 5 years, it was an underinvestment of above 50% in the industry. And suddenly, when we started becoming back to normal, which we were far from becoming normal in China, I was reading that there are 800 flights per week international, and used to be 18,000. So you can imagine when this comes back, what will happen. No, I'm optimistic about the crude, the products, the capacity of the yards are unable to cope. The long-term contracts are back for LNG, and they are discussing for 20 years with great anxiety, and we are back where we started abandoning Plan A without having Plan B in place. This is exactly how I can describe what is happening in the world. And now we are patching up with various excuses, which is Russia, invasion, pollution, all this. But we are patching up. We are doing nothing more than that. Thank you.
Eddie, good evening. A listed company with access to all sorts of wonderful things, but in the financial market at the moment, there has been still a very strong ESG element to this. And there are, for those transparent companies like yourself, and I mean, Mr. George is transparent, of course, and Polis has to be transparent too on that side of the company too. But in terms of the E bit of ESG, do you see this as an issue for ships that carry stuff that shouldn't be carried, like coal? I mean, I'm being ironic there, of course. Of course you should carry coal. But, or should we say politically incorrect cargoes? Do you see this as being an issue in terms of access to finance and access to certain financial tools?
To be honest, this has started, but it's not implemented yet. So we see a lot of, especially European banks, focusing a lot on the E, which basically it hasn't so much to do with the coal, although we get from time to time inquiries from our European lenders how much coal we carry on board every year. But that, at this moment at least, it doesn't really affect the way we get financed. And
sorry, let me get this clear, that you have inquiries about how much coal you carry every year?
Yes. Actually, it's a headache for our operations department to calculate this.
Absolutely.
But yeah. It's,
and is that ton mile, or is that just...
cargo.
Cargo, just
volume,
the cargo.
yeah.
Okay, well... Thank God they don't understand shipping. Anyway,
yeah, indeed, no. But I think on the other side, you also have some other lenders, which now for our market have become more and more important, which is, for example, the Chinese resource. I think for those people, the E hasn't started yet. They don't even require information under the Poseidon principles, which is more or less a standard requirement for major European banks. So I think you have a two-tier market at the moment. The regulated European banks are very much focused on the E, as you said, but the other side in Asia, and also we have some Japanese financing, they don't really, focus on that at the moment, at least.
Well, that's helpful, I think. The enlightened Japanese. Thank God for that.
I would, if you have one more question, I'm sorry to the audience. I had another commitment. I have said it, and I have to go. So if you want, I'm very open to answer anything you want. But
okay,
this should be the last one.
I think you've already answered many. Okay, rather than me, anybody else got a question for anyone?
Please, please.
Thanasis Kilakos.
I used to say to the bankers that there is no more stable business than shipping, because when it is up, it is definitely going to fall, and when it's down, definitely will come up. So unless you have the stomach to wait, it is the most stable business, because you know that the other day will come. So the first, this is as far as your first, how I see the ups and downs. The ups and downs, if they were not, then it will be a very dull business, and you would better invest in Swiss bonds, I don't know what. So coming back to the speedy and the EXI and all these things, first of all this we make rounds, and there's big egos behind that, because the end of the day is slower speeds up to the moment we have better fuels or better systems to capture the greenhouse gas emissions and to be proactive for the environment. There is no other method than reducing the emissions than going slower. And this, if it was easy to make also different sizes of ships, instead of having, let's say, the workhorse of the Panamax, you had a ship that was double the size, and you are going half the speed, you will save around 75 to 80% of the emissions. But the infrastructure, the trades, all this is not easy to adapt. But unless the regulators, IMO, classification societies, ship owners sit down and they make the list of the permissible greenhouse gas emissions grams per ton mile of cargo transported per type of ship is set, we'll never see any progress. We are doing rounds and rounds. We must have the permitted grams per ton of greenhouse gas emissions per ton mile of cargo transported per type of vessel. This says it all. It is the last 6-7 years that I say this phrase. I learned it by heart, but nobody is grasping the meaning of that. So this is the only way, and the amount of pollution that you create is directly analogous of the tons of fuel that you are burning and the quality of the fuel. So we must have better quality of fuels or slower speeds because you have less horsepower. They didn't like to say it speed reduction, they call it horsepower reduction. Δεν είναι αυτά, η γάτα τα έκανε. Anyway, this is the way that they are thinking. But coming back on the very important reality that in order to have hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, you need a distribution system, and to have this, it took more than 50 years for natural gas, for LNG, and still we don't have distribution system. So in the lab and on paper, everything is possible. But to go to the shipyard, to order a ship, to be, and of course today from A to B you can go with an LNG burning ship, but if you are prepared to pay 6 times more the cost of fuel, instead of $1,000 per ton, $6,000 per ton, then you are able to do it for some trades. So we are far, far away of all this. This is still fiction. The earlier we understand that, the less crisis we'll have. Thank you very much.
Let me just go and say thank you.
But it is, Mr. Samaras is a great friend of mine, and I have to go.
Γιώργο, αν δεν έχεις αντίρρηση, θα καλέσουμε την κόρη σου εδώ, στη θέση σου. Έλα.
She's very good. She's very good.
Λέει ότι είσαι very good, very good.
Thank God. Yana, thank you very much. And if you could actually lead the discussions as well? No? Okay. No. Hi. Good to see you again.
Hi,
Shipping is nothing if not flexible and adaptable. As long as we keep it in the family, I think that's even better. So, I'm going to skip back down to see Mr. Thanasis. Thanasis, in terms of this, should we say, fragmentation at the moment in the markets. We've touched on this with coal, with oil, with LNG, and elsewhere. The environmental side of things, which we've looked at from a regulation point of view, do you think this is going to change how people think about shipping in general, in terms of what, as Mr. Chairman Chavleris said, the threat to the planet and the concern that we have for the environment? Because this is something that a lot of younger people coming into the industry care very deeply about, and I know this is true in everywhere. I mean, do you think that this is going to change how shipping is fundamentally, or do you think it's something that shipping will adapt to?
Over the last, 20, 30 years, shipping has made great progress in any case in reducing emissions and with more economical diesel engines. Much more economical diesel engines, special other fuel-saving measures of the ships, for the engine, for the hull, optimizing the hull, using environmentally friendly bottom paints and scrubbers, I think, contribute, to reducing the emissions. So I would say that shipping has made more progress than industry, although industry in some countries is more regulated. I think I'm not an expert at all on, I'm not technical, and so I'm not an expert on what is the ideal fuel to be used on ships. I suppose we will move for types of ships like containers who have regular trade, which have regular trade, passenger ships to gas. For the tramp ships, it's more difficult because we don't have enough bunkering stations for gas. But I think we will still continue to make progress. I don't see any. Then we have to take into account that shipping is not a great pollutant. You know, shipping is only causing 2% of the pollution worldwide. 2% is practically nothing.
But I think shipping is more easily regulated because it's in one place in the IMO, and it can be regulated globally immediately, which is not the same as, more immediately than anywhere else.
One easy step, very easy step, for which, however, the consumer will have to pay, is to burn gas oil on the ships before going to gas. Of course, the future will also depend on the costs, you know, on the costs of, but I suppose gas will again be much cheaper than what it is today.
You said to me when you met, and I remember this, and I hope you don't mind me repeating, is that you're a short to medium term investor. You are a short to medium term investor.
I'm 73 years old, so I cannot be a long-term investor.
So in that context, where the infrastructure in shipping is short to medium term, you've already said your predictions in the market, but do you see anything in ships themselves that will change radically in the next short to medium term, let's say 5 to 10 years? I hope 20 to 30 years, but let's just keep it to that for the moment.
For me, I don't think much will change over the next 5 or 10 years. With this situation of very expensive gas and caused by this war in Ukraine, there was a setback certainly in the gasification of ships. But I think this will change. The war will be over hopefully soon, and things will go back to normal.
Okay. Thank you. Which is interesting, isn't it, Stephen? Because if you are talking from the world of supply and LNG and other gases, the problem with LNG at the moment is that the supply is in the wrong places, which is why shipping is making, or those that have LNG carriers at least, is making, well, and tanker owners and bulk carrier owners with coal, there is a fragmentation of the market which has been disrupted, which has brought benefits both to producers and to those that move it around. Would you say that's correct?
I think that the market is less fragmented than drying up. I think those who have carriers are hanging on to them. The spot charter market has become extremely thin. Ships are being used for storage as much for transportation. There's a great reluctance to try to make bets in terms of how the technology is going to play out. So I think we're seeing less a phenomenon of fragmentation than the effect of great uncertainty and the types of booms and busts that have been named that make it so hard to do the type of forward planning you need and to bring forward a case to the bankers that enables you to get the financing. It's a question of risk, and it's a question of when do you stick your neck out and release capacity, and when do you feel comfortable making a commitment to new capacity. So it's this thinning, I think, that is the underlying issue.
So if that's the case for LNG, as a cargo, as energy, as everything else, how soon do you think there's going to be, should we say, the new fuels like ammonia, for example, or hydrogen, for example, the stuff that we see being touted as being the future of ship fuel. How soon, just from because your background is in the oil and gas industry, and you've spent a lot of time looking at the supply side, and you have experience over many years of that. From your standpoint, how soon could ammonia, even just as a fuel for ships, be up to scale in terms of supply?
Theoretically, it's possible to do it quickly. However, in practice, I think the challenges are really huge on many fronts. The economic challenge, the infrastructure challenge, the safety challenge, the logistical challenge. Getting all that right.
Security challenge as well, do you think?
Yeah. The danger of ammonia leaks in confined spaces is a significant issue, and one that we think is something that's going to provide real issues and concerns in terms of getting it forward. I mean, there is a lot of talk about saving the planet, but we ought to think about saving the crews as well.
Absolutely. And also saving it from ammonia, which can be made into nasty stuff by itself as an ingredient, like nitrogen bombs and stuff like that.
Yeah, the risks, I mean, after 9/11, if you think back to what happened in Boston and the extraordinary concerns about bringing the LNG cargoes, that was a lot of optics. I mean, LPGs have many more safety issues in terms of misuse by a terrorist because of the way it disperses. Ammonia has got much more concerns than that. Hydrogen, huge concerns. I mean, people make hydrogen bombs. Nobody makes an LNG bomb, So I think working through these issues, if we're going to do it right and make sure that we're applying high safety standards and not acting impulsively, that's going to slow things down, because it is important to get this right and to not have huge accidents because we're pushing too hard or not thinking through the issues in a holistic way.
Okay, thank you. Joanna, I'm coming over to you because I've got a story to tell you. We haven't seen each other for a long time. I've been calling, I've been sending flowers, but hearing nothing, okay? I was trying to, I proposed a ship to a client of mine, handy size, and with that ship, which was coming from Japan, they helpfully provided the EEXI figures and the EPL and all that kind of stuff that we have to include most of the time. And this happened to be a sister ship, exact sister ship of a ship that I had sold previously to the same owners. And I got a call, and my guy said something like placa canis, okay? The EEXI that has been quoted and approved by class is 10% above what I have got on exactly the same ship. What have they done? What is wrong? And, okay, we can talk about previous conversations we've had about slow steaming and et cetera, but now we are faced with this stuff at the moment. Do you think that hands-on owners who are forensic in their operation of their ships, Greeks, for example, will have a benefit in the future over those who just give their ships to third-party managers and tick all the boxes and don't care? A lot to unpack there, but, you're capable, I know.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't supposed to be here, but I'll give it a shot. So, EEXI, CII, all these new clauses that are coming into play are going to play a role. I think there are ways to improve your EEXI with energy-saving devices, paints, engine power limitation, etc. So we're going to see improvements on the EEXI depending on how each owner chooses to comply or even improve. Now, I didn't get the 10% that you said exactly. The ship
basically, okay.
Sister ships had 10% less EEXI?
The ship that my guy had,
okay,
and he went through all the calculations, did everything himself, got hold of, scrutinized everything deeply, and managed to get a reading that was 10% less than one that had just been calculated by a third-party ship manager.
So you're coming into having third-party managers instead of taking care of your ships yourself. I mean, it depends on what style of management each company wants to follow, what type of expertise they have on board, in their company. There are companies that really like to be hands-on, and they have, in some cases, they have engineers at the helm of the company. And you have people that are more doing it more for investment point of view. So it is, if the numbers make sense and they don't really care about the nitty-gritty details. In our case, we do everything in-house. We believe in in-house management, and we like doing it in-house as well. It's something that gives us the know-how of how the ships are operated. We are very, you take responsibility of what you say to whoever you're saying it. And I think it's just a style of management that is, everything works, provided the numbers make sense. So it depends what everybody wants to do.
Okay, thank you. Polis, if I can come to you. BIMCO, quite recently, I think rather bravely announced and talked about and discussed and published a time charter party clause, which was designed for long-term time charter parties to address CII over the future. And although this was welcomed as a useful initiative to actually discuss the sharing between charterers and owners on that, I understand that you have quite strong views on this. Well, strong views. You have views.
Yeah, no.
Tell me how strong they are.
Yeah, I have some views, but we try to read this clause, and we think it needs some improvements, both from owners' side. I know charterers are complaining; they are not accepting it already, and they decided that it's not good for them. I don't think it's good for owners either. So I think owners will try to improve it to make it more clear and avoid disputes in charter parties, and charterers will try to make it more friendly to them, and from their point of view, they have an argument. But it's still very early. I think it's the first piece of paper that comes out, and we're all trying to understand what it says and how it will work. It says something, but how it works, nobody knows. I wanted to come back a little bit on the EXI you said before. I think you will find on sister ships, on exact sister ships, very small difference on the EXI. Maybe we find on our ships 2-3% differences between ships coming out from the same shipyard.
But 2 or 3% is big, isn't it?
Yes, it's big, but it's not.
Disaster. Okay.
With other type of ships of similar type, we can see 20% or 25% or even 30%, even from the same country, like Japan. We can see difference. So we don't really know how these figures will be fine-tuned in the end. What I am not very optimistic, I wanted to say before to the question you raised to Mr. Prokopiou before he left, the thing that I'm not very optimistic for the future is the control of Greek shipping, the control that Greek shipping has over what is happening right now with all these changes on the ETS, on the emissions, and how all this will be applied, because we have some arguments, and usually it's the arguments of we're trying to delay the decision because we're trying to find out what will be the fuel and the engine of the future. I'm not talking for the next 5 years or 10, beyond that, beyond 2030. And because we don't know many things, and we're very skeptical if we should order any ships or we should do anything before the whole world crystallize, I'm very worried because the major liner companies in the world, I was afraid of them before 2020, that they will lead the game change. Now, because they all make billions of profits, I mean, they made in the last 8 quarters profits that, can keep them going for another 100 years. They are trying to, and they will achieve to dictate the name of the game. And I am afraid that we will simply try to follow what these people will decide to do. and they have very big lobby, and I think that Greece is trying its best to keep things a little bit under control, so that we are fragmented. We're a fragmented industry. We have 600 different companies in Greece alone. Take the rest of the world, the rest of the ship owners with the 10, 20, 30 ships each one. We are thousands, and they are 10. They are 10, 7, 8, and they call the shots. This is what is worrying me at the moment. That is happening, and we are not participating, and we cannot participate. It's not a problem that we don't want to participate. We cannot participate. So a lot of things will develop before we even realize, and I'm afraid it won't be very positive for us. And you know, this is my biggest worry. Not if it will be the CII and who will pay, and because at the end of the day, the consumer will pay whatever it is to be paid. Like in aeroplanes, if you charter a plane to go from A to B, they send you a bill. If you are the charterer and you send a football team to play a football match, and you charter a plane, they say you pay so much for emissions. You are the charterer, you have to pay on the cost of the charter. It worries me how all that a limited number of companies will decide all these changes, and it will be those companies, unfortunately.
Well, one of those such companies in, should we say, the dry bulk space is Oldendorf, Egon Oldendorf, and they have just come out with a huge broadside against CII based on the data both from their own ships and their operated ships at the moment, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of, which actually says that the only way you can get an AAA ship is to slow steam in ballast, which is kind of missing the point a little bit. Do you think that real-life experience that can be presented in such an analytical way will actually change how the regulators will see shipping? And I throw this open to all of you. I mean, it's Joanna's straight up there. Okay, good.
I think to a certain degree, Oldendorf is right, because the way that the CII is written is not correct. And I think half the reason we're having this problem with the BIMCO clause, which just came out a month ago, not even a month ago, is the fact that the CII incentivizes long trips. And incentivizing long trips.
Just for those not aware, CII is Carbon Intensity Indicator, okay, which is about how intensively a particular ship uses carbon or emits carbon over different speeds and different conditions.
For those who don't know, it's a regulation that's coming out in the 1st of January that's going to categorize ships from A to E depending on how well they're operated. And the problem that Oldendorf brought out, first of all, they don't want to, the CII was not, the clause that BIMCO came up, they weren't very happy with, because it basically says that if you are the commercial operator, you're the one that is giving the instructions to for the voyage, and you should be the one paying for the emissions that you create. And I think that's the main argument that they had, whether they should or shouldn't be paying. But at the end of the day, the clause, the regulation is flawed, and that's why there are problems, and that's why there is unhappiness with this clause. Also, the fact that it doesn't, when you wait in ports for long times, which is beyond the control of either the owner or the charterer or whoever is in that chain of command, it's just congestion or strikes or anything, again, you're penalized, and it's something that you cannot correct. So that's why there's a lot of unhappiness with the regulation. But going back to the IMO that was mentioned earlier and the role of its of IMO as a regulator, it's a very important role. And what we see with the EU ETS and the fear that we have is that, I'm mentioning fear because Paulis mentioned some fears as well. There's a fear that local regulations will overtake international global regulations, which is something that we really need as shipping, because shipping is a global industry, and we should strive and keep that on our international level, because now you have the EU ETS. What happens if you have the China ETS, then you have the US ETS, and it's going to be a whirlwind of local regulations that are not going to, nothing positive is going to come out of it, basically.
But Alexandra, if I may come to you, this is all very well for in our shipping bunker to talk about. I mean, we think it's terrible, and we think something should be changed and something should be done because whatever. But the rest of the world thinks differently.
I feel that I have to, in a way, defend the BIMCO CI clause because, as Mrs. Prokopiou has identified, there is an inherent problem with the regulations and the CI regulations, and there is, I wouldn't say a reluctance on the part of the legislator and the IMO, but rather than they are slow in giving us the guidance on the CI regulation. So the starting point is, yes, it's a long and difficult, complex clause to read in, but our view is that it's better to have a clause which does put the basis for the apportionment of liabilities between the different stakeholders, rather than have nothing and the owner will have either the option to obey or ignore charterers' orders at the end of the day. But how do you translate that to the damages at the end of the day? So this is for the CII and the BIMCO.
But this also raises other discussions as well. I mean, in terms of the actual safety of ships at sea and the power that's being used. And I mean, you have enough disputes at the moment about charterers making inappropriate orders in certain sea conditions. What happens when it's the regulators that are insisting on it as well?
Well, that's very interesting, but we have to address that and accept that Greek shipping has been good and to protect its interests, if we could say that, even if it's through contractual.
Promote their interests.
Yes.
I think protect is a bit strong.
No, protect.
Okay.
Okay.
Promote, I think.
That's correct. But going back also to Mr. Hagioannou point, which again, it's a very valid point, and I would like to highlight that on the 30th of November, the EU institutions have already reached a preliminary tripartite agreement on the EU ETS, so it's very limited time until the 16th and 17th of December, whether it's going to be the final decision on that regulation. So another one to look at for. For us, safety comes first.
Obviously. Protection, that's why. Protection indemnity, I remember now. That's what it stands for. Okay. Any more comments, any questions on this topic? Because we can either move on. Captain.
Yes, just to put things into perspective. 99% of all the BIMCO clauses.
Have you got a microphone down there? Come on, we love to hear your voice.
Thank you, Simon. Just to put things into perspective, 99% of all BIMCO clauses which we're negotiating during the chartering process, we chop and we copy and we paste according to the market intentions. So if the market is on the benefit of the owner will propose a clause which is amended to his interests and vice versa. So I think at the end of the day, a solution will come out of that. And BIMCO will always act as a strict guideline and nothing more.
Mr. Chairman.
I think Mr. Xiradakis is fidgeting. He wants to say something.
I didn't, George. I didn't.
Okay, because he's also Panathinaikos like me, but he's in the back and he knows how to play with the ball. So thank you very much for these wonderful presentations, Mr. Martinos and all of you. I'm saying just Mr. Martinos because he's as well from his managing as well to be very correct in the Montathos. what we noticed so far is that there is a lack of a strength of an international maritime cluster. I noticed what Polly said, that, I'm scared as Greek being small compared to the giants, the big companies that they are rising. Then you try to find a banker talking about this, and there's no banker about to speak. I represent here the Association of Banking and Shipping Executives of Hellenic Shipping. And I have to tell you that I passed through all over Europe, and I was trying to pick up and find those bankers that they made Greek shipping, not Greek shipping only, even European shipping, big, substantial, and big the last 30 years. And I'm afraid that our sector does not exist anymore the way that we want, because in the past we had the Martinoses talking about shipping, and then the bankers supporting this, and then the lawyers followed, and then the charters, and then the commercial people followed. And now, therefore, there is a need to reform the international cluster in order to respond to all the requirements that the society raises, including the environmental, including the problem of clubbing, the way that you present it. And I think that one way or another, we have two nations that they are working hard on this, meaning the nation areas, the Scandinavian area and the North European, the South European, mainly here in Greece, and 2 or 3 personalities in Italy. And after all, we don't have anything to base on. So there is, I want to express that we must be careful on the next step, and at the same time to form the new rules on how we will invest, or how investments in shipping will take place from now on. Because moving out, for instance, one of the traditional players that was the shipping financier, and that he was replaced from a checklist, this is something dangerous.
Okay, let me take issue with you on this, and I want to bring a couple of my panel members in at the same time. First of all, it is my suggestion that, okay, I'm not Greek, but I've been knocking around for a while, and sometimes, one of the reasons why Greek shipping works, perhaps, is its fragmentation and its succession and the way that capital stays within businesses over a generational basis. It's one of the strengths to be able to invest on that basis. But I want to bring Eri in here. I mean, do you recognize this, this model where we have to all club together and the bankers have to pay attention to us in shipping? Is this something that you, as Chief Financial Officer at Navios, thinks is a good thing to happen?
Yeah, of course. I mean, power comes in unity, I think, to be honest. We are not, as a nation, I think, that well organized, to be honest. I have to agree with George. We have to have a common voice on certain issues, but the industry is fragmented. You have different types of owners. You have, in Greece, that is a problem. You have a lot of, okay, it's now gradually not that much evident, but you had the small shipping companies with the captains, and now you have the shipping companies of the 200 vessels. So you have different interests and different capabilities within our industry. That's why maybe explains why we don't have a common voice on certain issues. I mean, things that, a big company can do because it has the ability, the means, the backup of their financiers. Maybe it's not that feasible for a smaller shipping company to do the same.
Where do you think the money is going to come from, apart from the Greek banks? Because the Greek banks are still, for traditional finance, are still there, but the Germans have left, and there's very little appetite.
British as well, British. You can say British left.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The ambassador has gone. Yes, the British went. Yes. HSBC, however, still has a very large. my former employers still have a very large Greek portfolio on that. But if we have lots of different Greek companies working at different rhythms with different profiles and different diversity, isn't that better for the ecosystem of Greek shipping? Polis, you spoke quite eloquently on that before. I'd like your point of view, because this is about us here at the moment. I include myself. I'm sorry, George. Brexit wasn't my fault. Neither was the banks leaving shipping my fault, okay? But I still am British. Sorry about that. I take the blame.
Yes, I think there is no danger of Greek shipping not to follow. We will follow, and the success of Greek shipping is that the owners, at least the 100 owners I know out of the 600, the 100 owners I know, they are successful because they can adapt quickly. What I said before is that we will not control the changes. We cannot control the changes. They will happen faster than we think, and it will be the major liner companies that they will call the shots. Of course, we will survive and we will make money like we did in the past because we know to adapt. Even if the whole world changes, we will adapt. And this is a big success. And I say to every young people we hire in the company that, you know, in shipping, if you are not prepared to adjust quickly, you cannot survive. And this is the success of Greeks. And I see, because I moved the last 8 years to Cyprus, and the headquarters, of course, we have a big office still here in Greece. I see the difference that Greek people are a step ahead always of the changes. In Cyprus, we're a little bit relaxed, we're a little bit more easygoing. We like to go to the beach longer hours, but here people in shipping, they are successful because they adjust. What I said is that I'm worried that the game will change and we will have to adjust to a game that we don't like. This is my worry before. Not that Greek shipping will not manage to be strong even with those changes that are happening.
Thanasis, you are the senior spokesman on the panel here. Would you agree with that assessment? Would you say that, I mean, because you are, for want of a better word, really a family company.
I was following the discussion about clusters and seeing also my friend Anthony Komninos. We more or less started in shipping around the same time in the early 70s. And I recall that at the time Piraeus was quite an important cluster because there were about perhaps 20 or more from minor to major banks financing shipping. And that helped new ship owners at the time who were ex-captains, ex-shipbrokers, well, captains and shipbrokers who became ship owners. As Stenamaris, at least 15 of our staff became ship owners of lesser or more importance. Some did not succeed, half of them succeeded. And what I don't see today, well, we are established in Greece. We have our offices no more in Piraeus, but in various, Antonis has in Piraeus, but most of us are in Glyfada or in Kifisias. There are no banks established here financing ship owners. And the point I want to make is I don't see a breed of new ship owners, new Greek ship owners. And there are statistics, I think Mr. Petropoulos was issuing such statistics, and more of Greek shipping is concentrated in bigger companies. There are less companies managing more ships. And you don't get this new generation of self-made ship owners, and that is a bit worrying, in my opinion.
Well,
I regret this time a little bit, the heroic times of Piraeus.
Let me give you some hope then, Thanasis, because in the last 10 years I have bought the first ships of 2 new startups. In the last 10 years, I've bought the first ships and the fleets of 2 dry bulk carrier companies, the first. One of the companies came from a history of shipping. The other one came from somewhere else completely different. And I do see on the ground that there is still a desire from people to come into shipping who like the investment and have money elsewhere. So I want to give you hope that this does actually happen, and I have made some money out of it. So it's even more to the point.
It's a question of research. I don't know, somebody must research this question. How many new ship owners are entering the profession?
That's just because I know these guys. Okay, that's all.
No,
I will have to.
I'm not talking about
maybe Mr.
exceptions.
Petropoulos can guide us a bit more on these statistics, but it's hard to find. But I still think that there is hope in that, and there is also hope that there's a whole bunch of people in here who've been educated and are interested in shipping and looking at moving into this stuff as well. And I think sooner or later that money will flow to them either as investors or managers or elsewhere. Personally speaking, I'm very hopeful on that score. In the short to medium term, of course, you understand.
Thanks.
Right, any more on that theme? Right, I would like to talk more about, as we're onto this theme now, about the younger generation. We have been concentrating very much on shipping, and I hope that you found the developments that are concerning to the senior professionals we have with us here as being important. But there's a few issues that they're concerned about too. And first of all, I would like to ask the panel, each of you, and we've touched on this a great deal because it is obsessive, but if I have a student who says, is shipping sustainable in this world where the environmental concerns are forefront and where I want to explain to myself and my children what I have done and what I am doing, would you still recommend a career in shipping to young people, and to say that they should start working in shipping and because it is a sustainable career for them? I will start off first with the short to medium-term investor, Thanasis.
Well, you're asking the question if shipping is sustainable when...
No, as in, would you encourage somebody to enter a career in shipping? Would you encourage a young person today to enter shipping as a career?
To enter shipping as a career, of course I would. My concern is that there are too many universities, here in Greece even, a great number of graduates, because you have the University of Piraeus, you have University of Chios, and
the Athens University of Business and Economics as well, just to include them.
Do they have a graduate course or postgraduate? Business of Economics, postgraduate.
Yeah.
Okay, but of course you have the postgraduates as well. So if you have about, I don't know, every year maybe it's about 400 that graduate from all the schools. I mean, it's a bit difficult to all of them to be employed in shipping companies. But as we discussed the other day, there's always career opportunities in new clusters like Dubai, for example, and or even Qatar. You know, we have many Greeks working in Qatar, or even Malta.
So you would encourage,
or London. So I mean, it's not restricted to. So for a young person, I think perhaps to find a proper job in shipping, he must be prepared to travel.
Okay, and diaspora, after all, is a Greek word. So I think that's right. Joanna, what would you say in this? Obviously, it was a hard struggle for you to get into shipping when you started. The interview was very difficult, I imagine.
I have to say you have different struggles if you're from the family.
Oh,
but
I appreciate it. I'm teasing you. I'm sorry.
Anna has no choice.
No, I had a choice. Of course you have a choice, and you have to do what you love, and I think this is very important, and I was always given a choice, but you have to prove yourself in a different way if it's your own family business, because a lot of people think you're entitled, and you actually have to prove that you're not entitled, and you're there because you have some knowledge, you've made some efforts, you've done some things for yourself. So I think it is a struggle as well, so depending on which side you look at things. But going back to your question as to whether someone should seek a career in shipping, I think I would very much say yes. There's always shortage of talent. In our company, we're always looking for people that are capable, that know what they're talking about, that have done good studies, that are ambitious, that you need to be able to make some sacrifices as well. There's a big shortage of seafarers, and the seafarers that go on board our ships then come and man our offices. This is something that we see everywhere. I would encourage people to actually travel a little bit on board the ship, even after after having a degree in another university, to see what is life at sea. You have a completely different grasp of what shipping is. If you actually, even for a month or so, to actually be on board the ship makes a big difference. So I think there is room, and also for a young person, I think finally technology is catching up with shipping. There's a big room for all these ideas, and going back to your sustainability, unless you're able to measure things, you're not able to improve them. So there's a lot of space in, from sensors on board to applications to different better ERPs, etc. You can always find a niche. Recently, Lloyd's, and an award was given to a very young kid about his application called Harbor Lab, which is very interesting. We're looking into it as well. But there is, in my view, there's a lot of need for young people to enter the business.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Good evening, everyone. Just answering your question, is it a good idea for young to come into shipping?
Sorry, Mr. Harry. Can I just start?
Sure, sir. Okay.
No.
Yeah, ready. Okay, that's better. Yes, again, good evening, everyone. Is it a good idea for youngsters to come into shipping? Well, I think it is definitely a great industry to come into, but more importantly, if you're going to get into shipping, get yourself educated and get yourself educated with our Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers examinations.
That was a word from our sponsor, and obviously I endorse it heartily, as my math attack here know. Mr. Chairman, what is your view? I mean, your opening remarks were rather, should we say, dark about the state of the world, and you are chairman of an institute that has a president that's encouraging young people to enter shipping and do the exams. Do you think it's...
Yes. Well, first of all, in my opening speech, I tried to keep to the theme, which was turmoil in the world. It's not just shipping, it's not just chartering or sale and purchase or the price of oil or gas. It was a more general theme. That's why I said what I said. But I do believe that shipping is a good industry to get into. I think the Greek shipping is huge. As Ioanna said, they're going to need seamen, officers, office staff, managers. And I think young people who are able to join, study, get a degree, and then join companies, they can create their own business eventually, a group of people with some finance. Like Thanasis mentioned, his office, his company, Thenamaris, they produced about 20 new ship owners. So I would say it's a good business. Now, if you compare it with computers or digital and all these modern occupations, maybe they're more competitive. I don't know, but I think shipping is a good business to get into, as an employee and later as a businessman. Thank you.
Can I add something as well?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Alexandra.
Of course, I think all of us were very passionate about our industry. But if I would like to make a distinction about having more seafarers, and there is scope there to try and change a little bit our profile, raise the profile, but also change a bit the profile of the seafarers, especially after the pandemic and the challenges that the profession has faced with, like trying to declare seafarers as key workers. So this is one. So create that kind of appetite to the young generation, that it is a very safe profession and very attractive and lucrative, of course, for the seafarers. And second, as Mr. Tsavliris has pointed out, we are in the middle of the fourth technological revolution, which means that it will allow also more women to come in shipping, because there will be openings in technological professions, more engineers, more people ashore, but also on board the ships. I served as a cadet. I had the pleasure of serving as a ship cadet for 9 months, and I can say that this was a wonderful experience. And as Mrs. Prokopiou says, I will definitely encourage all the young women and men to do that before they decide to go into the shipping industry, offshore or on board the ships.
Thank you for that. There's many. One of my great regrets, personally speaking, is that I have never been to sea. And I find that there's a very strong gap in my education to do that, because I'm buying and selling ships. And without knowing the product in that such intimate detail, I still feel that's a gap that, that can be filled. And I would encourage managers and owners to seriously think about sending their employees, younger employees and trainees, to sea for a laden leg or two, at least, so that they can see who they're trying to deal with when they're talking to the ship and in the conditions that they're under. Polis, same question. Would you, in all conscience, in all honesty, encourage someone to enter the shipping industry?
Yes, of course I encourage 100%, and it's not with the promise that they will all become ship owners. They will not become ship owners, but they will have a very good paying job, which pays 3, 4, 5 times higher than other sectors. Also socially, it's a very good business. And I remember when I was young and I was meeting other people working in other shipping companies, or having their own shipping companies. We were going out for dinner. Mr. Fafalios is here, he remembers. We were going sometimes out for dinner, and we were discussing about specification of new buildings in Japan and similar. I mean, you create a culture in shipping. There's a culture created. You see here, we have a full room, a full house, and next door I hear from Natalia, it's another 100 people or 150, and it's amazing, amazing. And we're talking about things that we don't even know what we're saying here, but you know, it's our imagination mostly.
I thought it was just
it's
me.
Our imagination.
Yeah.
You see people are staying here and they are spending their evening to hear all these things, and socially develops people. The only thing you need to succeed is to be adjustable, to be adaptable. I mean, because shipping changes, we cannot say that I don't like this, I don't do this. It's not a fish farm or an ordinary business. It's a business we have to adjust. And Greeks, especially for that, they're #1 in the world, I believe.
Eri, I always say, sometimes after I've had a glass of wine or two, I have to say, we don't choose shipping, shipping chooses us. Now you're top of the tree in Navios. You're a wife, you're a mother, extremely successful. From a woman's point of view, considering all that, considering that there are 50% at least of my students that are women, and they ask this question quite a lot, is it something that you would encourage? Young mother, for example. Shot 2 now. Okay,
Actually, I think because my background before joining Navios was banking, so I think our industry, apart from the shipping companies which we have here, there are different aspects. There are, banks that finance shipping, insurance companies, brokers that do chartering, that do S&P. So it's actually a very wide industry. And I think definitely I started 25 years ago my career in shipping with a bank, which always is easier for a young professional. It was an organized environment. But now seeing our company after so many years, you see a lot of shipping companies being more corporate. You have people which are educated in a particular field that they do the business they're supposed to do in the company. So, okay, you have the people that do IT, you have the lawyers, you have the finance people, accounting people. So actually it's a shipping company now evolves and is a real corporate, at least the larger ones. But definitely I think when there is a way, there is a will, and definitely it's a good environment to be in as a woman, of course. And now we are increasing in numbers. It's even nicer, I have to say. And I think at least in our company now the proportion is 50-50. Okay, we have a CEO that is a woman, maybe always helps, but I think in certain areas of a shipping company, women are dominating the industry. Okay, maybe on the technical side, still we have a lot of things to do, but maybe that comes from the fact that women, usually don't want to study engineering, but that is changing, I think, definitely.
Thank you. Stephen, carrying on from Thanasis' theme, your background is not originally in shipping, it's in oil and gas supply and so on. But as a young man, you probably were raised in the part of America which is furthest from the sea as you can get.
Pretty much, yeah.
But you decided to leave and move abroad, and now you've been to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mexico, South America, Angola, elsewhere, and you speak 3 or 4 different languages, I understand. Is it a journey that you've enjoyed, and what would you recommend for a young person who is looking for a career, either in shipping or in energy or elsewhere?
Yeah, let me approach it this way. I've been in the energy industry, I've been international all my life, and it's a great ride. I think for shipping, it's an international business. It's an important business. It's a complex and interesting one. It gives you a perspective on what's going on in the world that you don't get if you stay in Rockton, Illinois, and work on a farm. And I think that's important. I think if you're, if you have a litmus test that it has to be completely green, and that's the only thing that's important to you, find something that's completely green. But I think if you go out and say the world is multiple hues, and that's interesting about it, and I want to be in the thick of it, then you want to look for an industry that makes a difference, that is global in nature, that's going to be a window seat on geopolitics, that's going to throw some really interesting dilemmas at you, and get in the thick of it, and yeah, try to make incremental differences, but get involved and start moving and challenge yourself and push. I think shipping is going to offer that way more than a lot of other professions would. Shipping in the energy industry in spades right now.
Thank you very much. Right, I finished on time, Mrs. Natalia. And I'd like, just for myself, thank you very much for being such good sports panelists. Please, a round of applause for such important insights.
This is such a special moment for our branch, as we have the opportunity to thank and to show our appreciation tonight to a long-standing member of the Institute, Mr. Harry Hadjimichail, President and General Manager of Chaco Shipping and Trading. Mr. Hadjimichail has had a remarkable career since he became a member of the ICS in London 50 years ago, when he actually took the 3rd place in the international exams. Apart from his professional achievements and his successful career in major Greek shipping companies, Mr. Hadjimichail has had a significant contribution to the ICS Greek branch. For this special occasion, I would like to invite the President of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers and our Chairman to present the award to Mr. Hadjimichail. Kapetan Panagiotis Tsakos would be here tonight, but he didn't feel very well. So there are some flowers for you, Mr. Hadjimichail. From Kapetan Panagiotis Tsakos.
Yes, I will.
I will be short. Mr. President?
On this side. I'm the chairman.
Sure.
I'm only here for the deal.
Members of the Institute and students of the Institute, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you indeed. I'm deeply pleased and honored to be here tonight and to be receiving this prestigious award from the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, Greek branch, in recognition of my long-standing dedication, support, and contribution to the Institute, having been a member of the organization for over 50 years. I would like to congratulate all those who have participated in organizing this very important event on moving forward with the world in turmoil. With so many distinguished speakers, ICS has played a protagonistic role in the shipping industry for more than 110 years, providing internationally recognized professional maritime education. I feel privileged to have witnessed the significant role of the Institute in the industry and to have enjoyed, as a fellow member, the many benefits of being so engaged and closely linked to the international shipping community. Together with Mr. Nicholas Tsavliris, we are counting many years of alongside roots, being among the first members of the Greek shipping community. Today, as a member of the Tsakos Group, I continue to follow the Institute's activities, to support through whatever role I have the opportunity, and to witness the excellent work that the Greek branch delivers in providing a well-educated workforce and fostering synergy with the industry community. Getting this award is indeed a life achievement and somehow a friendly reminder that I have grown old. And as a friend, a good friend, has put it, but hopefully wiser. I'm afraid it has yet to be proven, if ever. It has been a long and challenging voyage and an adventure, but equally a pleasant and educating journey. I can safely say that throughout these years, each day was different, with new challenges to address and new things to learn each day. I was indeed very privileged to work with top Greek shipping groups and excellent professionals that turned my job into a hobby. My first contact with shipping was in 1969, when I joined the Hadjioannou Shipping Group Trudos at their Piraeus office. 6 months later, I was transferred to their London office, where my journey with ICS started in the early 1970s, when I attended the City of London Polytechnic for the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers course. I became a member of the ICS in 1972. I passed my fellowship exams in 1974 and was elected a member next year. Concurrently, I also qualified as a member of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. At the end of 1974, I migrated to Australia and from there to an exotic place called Papua New Guinea, where my family was based and involved in road construction under the equally exotic name of Zorba Constructions. I worked for the local shipping company, which was owned by the Anglican Church, believe it or not, of Papua New Guinea, the Adelaide Steamship Company of Australia, and an Australian businessman, Mr. Alan Stannard of Sydney. I returned to Trudos Group at Piraeus in 1978 till 1995, when I joined the Tsakos Group. That was 27 years ago. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Hadjioannou family who have given me the opportunity to study and work in their London and Paris offices. Captain Panagiotis Tsakos and his family for entrusting me as a member of the group's management team and supporting me throughout the 27 years. Both groups were still and still are a great place to work and indeed great schools to learn and be involved with all aspects of shipping. Furthermore, I wish to thank my colleagues from Trudeau's and Tsakos groups, some of whom are here tonight, for their support, team spirit, and willingness to share their expertise and counseling in handling each day's challenges. Lastly, and most importantly, I wish to specifically thank my wife and son for their support and understanding for missing holiday schedules, school events, birthdays, and dinners, without prior notice and well outside the late days window. Thank you again for this recognition. I wish all the best to the ICS members and to all current and future students. It's a great job. You should follow it up. Wishing you all an enjoyable Christmas. Thank you.
Congratulations. Sorry.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure and challenge. I can assure you that.
1974. I studied that time as well.
You did? Congratulations to you too.
Well, not. I was after you. Yeah, I'm just a youngster.
Thank you very much. Reverse. Let's move a bit to the right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you need me? Do you want
No, please have a seat.
Stay there. You have more work to do.
I stay here.
And now for my favourite bit, the awards. I too, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, am very proud to be part of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, not just as a fellow, not as a committee member, not just as an examiner. The thing that gives me most pride is to be a teacher, especially teacher here in Greece. I don't think I do it because I'm giving back something back, because I don't get so much more, I get so much more back myself than I can ever give. And one of the biggest rewards I get is when people get it. The ICS in Greece is the largest examination centre in the world, with most students participating even in the last 2 years during the pandemic. This year, more than 500 shipping professionals, present and future, attended our programs and took exams. These awards are for those students who achieved high levels of excellence in their examination results. And they are to be congratulated and honoured by all of us. But I would like to draw your attention to some others that we cannot, unfortunately, mention individually. To those, the majority by far, who are working, many of them with young families and growing families and hungry families, who dedicate themselves to their studies under a great deal of pressure. To those who overcome their difficulties in writing in English. To those who refuse to accept poor marks and come back to try again and again. To those who help others, sharing their professional experience and knowledge. To those who overcome their own feelings of academic inadequacy and find a self-confidence that they never knew they had. They know who they are. These exams are tough, essay questions in English, by hand, that every member has to pass. There is no multiple choice, no cut and paste, no spell check, no model answers. Every candidate has to take 7 exams. Okay, some may get some exemptions from the University of Piraeus or elsewhere, but minimum of 5. It is still a challenge to study, to learn, and to sit these exams at the same time as people are working and living and coming under other pressures in their lives. So first of all, I would like a round of applause from all of you for all those this year that have passed their exams and those that have achieved membership. It is a qualification. My reward is their success, their efforts, their progress in shipping and in life. And I'm sure my brother and sister examiners would agree with me. And now, for the special cases. First of all, Mr. Harry Fafalios, if you could come and join us, please, to present award for a distinction in the ship sale and purchase examination to Nicholas Georgiou. Nicholas, are you available, please? Nicholas, who is still trying to work out how to get out of his seat, is a graduate of the University of Piraeus Maritime Studies Department and is now a sell and purchase broker at Eurochart. His high marks show that Eurochart made the right decision, and now I have more competition. Now I would like to ask Elpi Petraki, Empress of Worcester, please, to please come forward to present an award for a distinction for port agency to Christos Kampakis. Christos, if you're available, please. You may say that owning a port agency in Thessaloniki is an advantage in taking this exam, but as anyone who runs a business knows, time is at a premium and putting practice into words is even more challenging. So congratulations, Christos. And now Yannis Floutakos, my dear friend and colleague from Orsa Shipbrokers, please come and present an award for the distinction in the economics of sea transport to Athina Evangelou. Athina, πού είσαι? Εκεί, έλα, πάμε. Athina is an accountant at Euronav Ship Management, having previously worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers in Athens. I'm not sure if accountancy prepares you for economics or vice versa, but nonetheless, she has succeeded in both. Congratulations, Athina. Okay. And now I'd like to ask our host, Mr. Evgenidis Dimitriadis, to come and give not just one award, but 2 awards for distinctions in both ship finance and ship sale and purchase to Kostis Leontos. Kostis, please. Even though Kostis works for Union Maritime Enterprises, just downstairs from us, and shares my love for good food and wine, and even drives a Vespa, but blue. His distinctions come purely from his studies and wide experience from the industry. One distinction is fantastic, but 2, black accounts, come on, showing off, showing off. Now, let me just, if I haven't stressed it enough, okay, to get a distinction is to get above 80%. Okay? And it is not an average thing, it is a finite thing. You have to get over 5 questions in 3 hours. The knowledge, experience, and analysis and so on to get in there. So these are really special people. I hope you appreciate that. These are really special people that have done this. Talking of special people, Spiros. Hello. Spiros Vanvakas of AB Maritime to come forward and present another award in a distinction for ship sale and purchase to Rafael Kanakas. Hello, Rafael. This charming man, this cool kloss here, is a dedicated and curious student, and a bit of a party animal too, it has to be said. Has given up a career in banking to become a ship sale and purchase broker at George Mondreus and fulfill a dream of his. I'm creating competition. What am I doing here? Thank you, Mr. Simon. Congratulations. Dimitris Vassos, please, from Holmwood, Fenwick and Willen. Please come forward to present an award for a distinction in legal principles in shipping to Ileana Jitsi. I have to tell you that Ileana immediately stood out in lessons as engaged and interesting. I don't think that shipping should lose this one. A qualified naval architect and marine engineer, excellent marks in law, completely without anything else. This is something versatile, and she's quite funny too. Pantheon Tankers have got themselves a real keeper, as I'm sure you'll agree. Mr. Platsidakis, please come and come forward and give the present award for another distinction in legal principles to Marios Papamichalopoulos, please. Marios, are you here? Hello, Mario, come on. I always say that there's no such thing as a stupid question, but Marios really tested that concept very far. But a curious mind is rewarded, as it is here, and Marios is a surveyor for ABS with no legal background. Look at the broadening of these talents. It is amazing what we find out about ourselves when we start learning again. Bravo. Bravo, Mario. And finally, DIFAS, please come forward to present a very special award to Anthi Athemiadi. Anthi, please. Now, Anthi has already been to London to be presented with another prize, but this prize is very special. This is top marks globally for all S&P exams in a year. Now, I know how hard this is. This is global award, and we are honouring here today. This is an extraordinary achievement. Anthi is currently working at LATSCO, doing kind of DPA, that kind of thing stuff, HQSE. I hope I haven't created another competitor, but even if I have, welcome. Well done. I want to see you all next year. Okay. Natalia.
Dear members of our panel, thank you for sharing your views and offering us valuable insight into the current issues of the global shipping market. Simon, thank you for facilitating a smooth and fluid discussion. Your contribution has always been so valuable in delivering a successful event and engaging the audience. I am thankful for having you next to me and next to the Institute for all these years. Nothing would be possible without the contribution and commitment of my team at the Hellenic Management Center. Tanya, Stavroula, Konstantina, Christina, and Tonya, thank you so much for everything. Also, I would like to thank everybody who contributed to this organization. Our chairman, Mr. Nicholas Tsavliris. Mr. Leonidas Dimitriadis Evgenidis. And last but not least, our loyal sponsors. Once again, thank you very much for being here. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you.